Hello everyone, my name is Samantha and I want to welcome you to Sacred Solaris. I'm very excited to be sharing with you today my favorite oracle card decks that I use for myself and also for clients and my Patreon whenever I'm doing psychic work and energy readings. I think the oracle cards, along with tarot, are a beautiful form of divination to anchor spirits, messages and guidance for us in the physical, especially while we're learning to deepen and kind of expand our intuitive senses and psychic senses. And so I'm really excited to share with you what I use for myself and others. Before we dive into this video, please subscribe, leave a comment, like. It's so helpful to me as I'm trying to grow my YouTube community, and I'd love to see you in the comments. I'd love to hear what your favorite oracle card deck is, what your favorite, if you have any of the same ones that I do. Please let me know below, but if you could subscribe, it helps me out so much. So thank you if you do, and let's get into the video. Through filming this video, I've had time to reflect on my personal preferences when it comes to divination cards, and I have noticed that the cards that I started off with are now the cards that I use for others. When I reflect on the guidance that I used to want back then, because I wasn't as open to spirit and channeling, which I do now, I kind of needed all the help I could get. Where I think as you progress on your spiritual path, you become a lot more aware of how spirit is guiding you, become more in tune with spirit, with your own body, and so you don't need as much like mundane guidance, because you kind of can navigate the energies of your life a lot better. And so I notice that now I reach towards cards when I'm wanting big spiritual confirmation, soul guidance, and that sort of thing. So the cards that I use now currently for myself are a lot more deeper and richer in spiritual things, and I probably would say back in the day when I first bought them, I didn't reach for them as much because they were a little bit too much for me. But now I love them, and they're my absolute favorite. So number one I want to share with you is, okay, so my favorite author, absolute favorite author of oracle cards is Alana Fairchild. And I love Alana's words that she channels from spirit. They are just literally, it's like spirit is talking to you, like, and it is, you know, it's such a divine deck. You can feel her authenticity. She's an Australian spiritual guide, I guess. And she links up with the most incredible artists to accompany her deck. So the first, and this is my absolute favorite, is the Earth Warriors deck by Alana Fairchild, and the artwork is done by Isabel Briner. And I'm gonna try and find her Instagram because I actually follow her, and she's the most amazing artist. What I love about Alana's decks is the way that she writes the messages and the meanings. You get this really comprehensive guide. So not only do you get sort of like a divination, you often get a healing process or a prayer or a ritual that accompanies each card. The artwork is absolutely stunning, as you can see. And the thing that I love the most about this deck is it's so anchored in the earth and in spirit. It's a perfect meld between so many different cultures. It's got so much history and folklore and symbolism just melted all throughout it, and it's honestly just my favorite. I received the most incredible guidance when I use this deck, and I'm so grateful because it really is a spirit deck. It's like spirit talking. That's how I would kind of sum it up. Spirit is talking to you. So when you're reaching out to spirit and going, just send me a sign, or like, I'm not getting this, like when I'm frustrated that I'm not receiving the message that I should be, I'm like, oh, just give me a message, spirit. And I use this deck, and it's like, oh, I can just hear my guides talking to me through the deck, if that makes sense. And I guess that's what I personally now reach for, more so than like new beginnings, dreams, manifestation, abundance. Like, I don't want to really like read a really mundane write-up about something. I can feel into those energies. Mine's like when I'm reaching a crisis point in my life, and normally we have like a breakdown to have a breakthrough, you know, like a crisis moment. And I always receive the guidance that I need from this deck. My second favorite deck that I use normally in conjunction with the Earth Warriors is the Beyond Lemuria deck by Izzy Ivy. And something that I wanted to say before I dive into this deck is it's important to remember that every single oracle card or tarot card deck that you have, an artist, an author, a creator has birthed it. It started with like an idea and a spark from spirit, and it has kind of come all the way through the creation process into physically now being here. So the intention, the magic that author has woven into their deck is going to work differently with everyone. So you might aesthetically love the look of a deck, you actually get it, and then you're not finding that connection. And often I find that really is because it depends on the author, their intention. Is it just a quick plea for money that, oh, oracle cards are the, new you boot thing, and so everybody kind of wants one, and so they're jumping on it, or is this something that someone has worked on for 10 years and it's come through and trickled through with spirit's messages? You're going to find decks that you connect with more than others, and I think that comes down to the author and whether your energy is in alignment with the author's energy and the creation. So the way that I use the Beyond Lemuria deck is really interesting. I find that I can look at these cards and receive the message. I really don't need to read I don't read a lot of the manual book. The good thing is you get like a summary up the top of just like basic key phrases. So normally I might just glance at that, but a lot of the times just staring at the card, reading, the little top summary, I receive that message. And I find that it really helps. It gives me like a theme. So let's say, for instance, this is, of course, it's the top, my favorite card. It's the Mount Shasta card. And when I received this card, I've received it so many times when I've used this oracle, it's always about coming home to spirit, remembering my kind of starseed nature, remembering that there is life and wisdom beyond this physical existence, and also that as I'm sharing, so it comes up a lot when anything has to do with sharing online, YouTube, Instagram, when I'm doubting myself, that the wisdom that I'm carrying is not just from my experiences as Samantha in Australia for 28 years, it comes from so many different lifetimes, and so many different people are guiding me in spirit, for instance. So yeah, like when I see that, I can feel spirit being like, and it just summarizes, energy up really well for me. If you are interested in this deck though, it is really beautiful. It has chakra cards, and it's intended as a healing. So as you pick a chakra card, there is a little run through about like, placing the card on wherever it is, and there's like an activation that can happen for you. But the artwork is spectacular, and Izzy Ivy is the artist, and she explains in a lot of her card readings, why the painting came to be, or why the card came through to be in the deck. And I absolutely adore it. A really beautiful thing happened. It's not actually beautiful. I got into a car crash a week and a half ago. And thank goodness, like I'm fine. The other person was fine. Someone drove into me. So I was on the roundabout and she like drove into the side of my car, and I was on the roundabout to begin with. Anyway, I got home because it was a huge wake up call and message from spirit. And I was like, okay, why has this happened? What are you trying to get through to me? What's going on? So the card that I pulled was the Sound of the Universe. And I remember thinking that's really random. And so I didn't understand. I decided to get the book and to read it. It was a significant card as I crashed my car trying to steady the painting and momentarily taking my eyes off the road. The events that followed delivered the most spiritual growth I had experienced in this lifetime up until that point. So it's like, literally I had a car crash. I asked for guidance. I'm not going to go into the whole meaning of this card, obviously, but a card fell out of the deck about her having a car crash and it being a really pivotal moment in her life. So this deck and my energy and her messages, I absolutely adore. So definitely these are my two favorites that I use pretty much all the time for readings now. My 3 and 4 favorite decks are both written and created by Alana Fairchild. They are goddess, like deity decks, and they are for the Kali Oracle and the Isis Oracle. So Kalima and Lady Isis. I only use these decks when I'm doing a lot of devotional work or the energy around me. I feel guidance coming from these two goddesses. But if you resonate with Kalima or like the ancient Egyptian pantheon and Lady Isis and all of those sorts of deities, I 100% recommend getting these two oracles. The deck is stunning. The artwork is amazing. I believe it's written on, I don't know if it's the same person, but the Kali artwork was done by Jimmy Manton. I'm assuming it's the same person. And you can just see they're just stunning cards. They're so rich with history and so much spiritual guidance. And then they have rituals that you can perform. They have like incantations and different things that you can do. I work with Isis so much in my personal devotional practice, so I do use this whenever I feel that call. Similar with Kalima, I only really reach for this when I feel the call to, and for those who have worked with Kali, I'm sure you understand. For me, her energy is like the tower in the tarot. Ferocious grace and supreme protection with the wild divine mother. And I love that description of her. As you can see, the artwork is very intense, and there was a time where I was very light in love and I didn't like sort of the darker elements of spirit, and they kind of scared me. But I realized too it's because I was ignoring my own shadow work and seeing, you know, skulls and ripped out tongues and all the crazy stuff that comes along with this. You know, I would run the other way. I didn't want a bar of it. But as I have dived into my shadows and started working with, you know, the darker deities and the baneful herbs and going on the poison path, I absolutely adore this because it's about not hiding from our true nature. Just facing myself in the mirror, all of me, you know, because we are both light and dark. We are both shadow and light. So if you are only looking at the light of life and not acknowledging the darkness, you're never going to see yourself fully as you are. So yes, I fucking adore this deck. You can just see by the images how powerful it is. And I think for those who need that and like to connect with power and need that kind of energy, this is an incredible deck to have. Jai Kalima, Jai Ma. The next three decks that I want to show you are diving into my Celtic ancestry. So the first is the Celtic Tree Oracle, and it's got a beautiful thick booklet that it comes with, but the cards are teeny weeny tiny. They're about the size of playing cards. They're like the size of my palm. Kind of tell you a bit of the folklore. So when you open it up, it's got, you know, the names of each thing, what the card means in reverse and upright, and a bit of information about it and the folklore, which is great. So I love this deck. I definitely would recommend if you work with the Celtic alphabet, the divination system of the old common, things like that. Now, my favorite Celtic Druid deck is the Druid Plant Oracle. These are huge. The card is huge. It opens up like this. Amazing for learning herbalism. The information in the book is amazing. What it means upright, what it means reversed, a general meaning, and then, yeah, like what the plant is used for in herbalism and healing, which is really cool. I love that each card is really layered with symbolism as well. There's often old Neolithic images in there and symbols. There's animal spirits as well, so it kind of all like links in together. And then the animal version of the Druid Plant Oracle is the Druid Animal Oracle. Again, there is plant medicine and symbolism all through it, plus the animals, and I adore this. I've even got dragons in there, which are really cool. The next cards that I want to show you are the Earth Magic cards by Stephen D. Farmer. I adore these cards. These are the ones that I reach for pretty much for every reading for another person. The reason I love them is they are probably one of the biggest reasons I developed my language with spirit, because his cards really allow you to understand the ways that spirit is trying to communicate us, like through the natural world. For instance, like this is the iceberg card. When you open up the book, it has an analogy, kind of like the meaning behind why this is submerged. And so it allows you to then see that symbolism of like, oh, well, an iceberg, you know, there's about 10% that is seen and then so much is below the surface. So when this comes out, you have like such a deep understanding as to like what an iceberg is symbol for, what its medicine is, what its meaning is. And because it's like real world, it's not channeled down, it's like taking the direct message from the natural world and from spirit and putting it into the card. When something shows up in my life that is a natural messenger from spirit, whether it be a dragonfly or whether it's in the clouds or whatever it may be, these cards I think really helped me understand and deepen that communication and really open that communication with spirit. So yes, absolutely so close to my heart. I would recommend them to anyone. And the artwork is just spectacular. It's so beautiful. Next is the crystal reading cards by Rachelle Charman. These are the first oracle cards I ever bought. And I bought them years ago at a shamanic healing modality course that I did years and years ago. And yeah, they're just super easy to read. You'll see like how big they are for starters, and the deck is ginormous. So there's heaps and heaps of cards. But what I love about them is if you're learning about crystals, you're trying to like deepen your sort of library of understanding of crystals, I think these are awesome because they literally can almost be used as flashcards. As you do a reading, you kind of understand because of the key phrase. But when you look at the book, it's awesome because they have the crystals, colors, the related chakra, the crystal medicine, the crystal meaning, and then the oracle meaning for the card. I find is really easy to learn these cards because you're connecting with the crystal, you're seeing, you know, 60 cards pretty much of different crystals. So I love this. The last oracle cards are a sneaky surprise for those who made it all the way to the end of the video. They are mine that I created. They're literally on paper at the moment as I am rough drafting them and creating the actual physical cards. I wanted to use them, so I was like, well, why not just make them on paper to begin with? So these are so near and dear to my heart. They came through from spirit, actually. It wasn't something that I was thinking about. They just came through in a big download when I started creating my online workshop. It's taking people on a 4-week sacred journey, and it's very guided by our grandmothers and our ancestors. And yeah, the cards just came through. So they're very much an ancestors deck mixed in with plant spirits and animal spirits and crystals and all the works. They've given me some of the deepest guidance, and because they've been channeled from and through me, oh, this is beautiful. This is the belladonna grandmother, so the plant spirit of a true part belladonna, and it really is a perfect talking point. I wanted to pull a card for you, but a tropa belladonna is such a protective and deep feminine plant, and it's very big with our shadow self and empowering ourselves. So I definitely created these in a time where I needed that empowerment when I was going through my shadow self and through my shadow work. One day, hopefully you will have these in your hands. Hopefully I can cut back to that moment in like 10 years or something when I've actually got them and be like, see, remember when they were like a piece of paper? Well, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Please leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite oracle card deck is that you own. I'm always up for new suggestions. And if you'd like to join me in between, you can join my Patreon, which is Sacred Solaris, and head over to my Instagram and catch up with me in between uploads. I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye, lovelies.